On this episode of Our Kids,
one big bad thing has happened to America over the last 30 or 40 years. There's been a shriveling of our sense of obligation for other people. If you hear somebody talking about our kids now, they mean their own biological kids. And if you talk to people about the poor kids, they say, well, that's a sad story, but they're not my kids, they're somebody else's kids. Let them take care of them.
How could you say that if you don't know our story? How could you say it's our fault? It's not that we asked for my dad to be a drug dealer. I didn't ask for my mom to have to work 24/7.
My mother passed away when I was 4 years old, and my father, he just made bad choices.
A lot of our kids, it's hard to trust. They've been let down by so many people.
I used to wander off, used to do whatever I wanted to, never really had somebody there to tell me not to do bad things.
I was getting sick and tired of being the target, so I became the bully.
In a country as rich as America, that over 40 million people are living in poverty is despicable.
Our last resort would be sleeping in my car. And that's not a proper place for a kid to grow up.
But I kind of felt like I was homeless.
The promise that I think has been broken for our children, that's the promise of the American dream. The promise that it doesn't matter where you're born, as long as you work hard, you can reach whatever heights you want to. That's not true anymore. That's not true in America anymore. The kids that are born into the lowest income quintile have a very, very small chance. Most of them, over 60%, will stay in the bottom income as adults.
an opportunity gap is crippling our nation. It is threatening the future of millions of children and their families.
This is a terrible problem, this growing gap between rich kids and poor kids. But I'm actually optimistic, and I'm optimistic that we can fix this.
People in communities across the country are searching for solutions to narrow this widening gap, to ensure a better future for all our kids.
What do you say? It's gonna be a happy day.
In this episode of Our Kids, we visit Riverside, California, and Manchester, New Hampshire. In both communities, individuals and organizations are strategizing to discover new ways to narrow their widening opportunity gap. These two places are very different. California is large and diverse, while New Hampshire is small and virtually all white. But both have an opportunity gap. A common thread in many of these stories is the importance of mentors in young people's lives. One person can make a huge difference, forging new solutions that can be emulated elsewhere.
Riverside, California is located 55 miles east of downtown Los Angeles. Founded in the early 1870s, it is known as the birthplace of the California citrus industry.
On our stationery, it says that we are diverse, we are inclusive, we are committed, and we are proud. And that means everybody in the city. Narrowing the opportunity gap in Riverside has truly been part of our DNA from the beginning.
We have our challenges. Our income levels are below the average. Our education levels are below the average.
And I'm so grateful for Robert Putnam to come to Riverside and to inspire us. And there's still conversations going.
As a policeman, we are asked all the time, what can we do to prevent crime? So we tell people the conventional things, lock your doors and don't leave things in the car that the crooks can see and all that. But I really believe that the number one crime prevention thing that we could do is to not throw people away. You have to be very, very careful about taking hope away from a person. It's a very dangerous thing to do.
No teen is unlovable or beyond hope to Ron Gardner and Lynette Jones. They open their home and their hearts to teens abandoned by society, many of whom have given up on themselves.
I've been called worthless, drug addict, lowlife.
They called me an asshole or a faggot.
I was always labeled a bad kid. Even with my family, I was labeled bad.
Ron founded the Eureka Project House as a safe, home-like living environment for teens.
We're sitting in a group home, which is one of many over the state of California. And I tell the youth all the time, just because you're in a group home does not mean you can't achieve.
A lot of our kids, it's hard to trust. They've been let down by so many people.
My dad was never around, and my mom had 7 kids. So she had to provide for all of us because my dad was basically a drug dealer. So he was never there. He was always in and out of prison, and my mom had to provide for us. So she worked from the moment we got up to the moment we went to sleep. And so babysitters pretty much raised us. They would pretty much hit my little sister and make her sit in an ice cold shower because she would pee on herself, but she was still a kid, you know?
I went to, I want to say at least, and I'm sure it was more, but I want to say at least 10 different foster homes.
I would break into people's houses. I would steal whatever I could.
They're out here in the streets hustling, they're selling drugs, they're selling arms, they're smuggling, they're doing whatever it takes to make it.
I actually got tased and everything by the police officers.
People around me were like, oh, you're gonna end up like your sister, you're gonna have a baby at 16, or you're gonna be like your brothers, you're gonna get on drugs, and you're gonna be like all tweaked out, you know? You're never gonna make nothing of yourself, you're never gonna graduate, your mom didn't, your dad didn't. No one in my family had ever graduated.
But if we don't empower them, the incarceration is going to continue. The recidivism is going to continue. The drug issues is going to continue. The teen pregnancy is going to continue. The overdose is going to continue. We're just going to have a society of young men and women that are lost.